As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, Obscurians? It's time once again for another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media. Then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and with me, he's the fourth member of ProStars who represented professional wrestling, but it was kicked out because he was using roids.
It's Yahel. How you doing, Steven?
Oh man, I'm jacked for the Super Bowl. Ooh, how about yourself?
Oh, I bet, Steve. I know what a sports fanatic you are.
Oh yes, I'm a sports geek, but for some reason they're not called that. They're just called, as you said, fans, super fans, right? For some reason,
Sure.
If you're obsessed with sports, you're not a geek, you're a super fan. But if you're obsessed with like comics or like Star Trek, like yourself, we're just big old geeky nerds, right?
Yeah, apparently that's the way the ball rolls.
Yeah. Are you
in your game of choice? I don't
Wow, someone's dialogue was written by the writer of ProStars here, I see, which is basically nothing but 22 minutes of sports puns. Terrible sports puns.
Yeah. The dialogue is questionable in several ways, as we'll get to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, in case you can't read a thumbnail or a title, we are covering ProStars today, a 90s cartoon, which you can go watch on YouTube right now. There'll be a link in the description. Apparently, for some reason, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, and Bo Jackson teamed up. I would say to like fight crime, but their motto is ProStars helps kids. Like that's it. So if I'm an adult and I'm like being murdered on the side of the road and the ProStars are walking by, like, what are they gonna do, Yahel? What are they gonna do?
Apparently they're going to attack your attacker with weapons made by a kind of racist Jewish stereotype, as we'll get to.
Yes, we will. There's actually
I can see why Michael Jordan is only in 5 episodes, appearing as himself.
Right.
Yeah, because there is a live action component to this where we see, at least in our episode, it was only Bo Jackson and Wayne Gretzky that we got to see in the live action interview segments for themselves. They're confessionals, if you will.
Because
Gretzky had a confessional, in my opinion. Yeah, for a second he thought he was at therapy.
Yeah, he just broke down. Now, I don't know anything about Wayne Gretzky other than he's considered like the greatest hockey player of all time. He's Canadian, right? You pretty much have to be good at hockey.
Yeah, I believe he's Canadian.
Yeah, he was just remembering the time he got drunk and ended up at the Hart Dungeon, and Stu Hart stretched him. That's what was going on.
I did read an article where, basically it was an article about the show, but they interviewed, I guess, like somebody that knew Gretzky, played with him or something, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, that show was ridiculous. Wayne Gretzky's not funny in real life."
So you're telling me that according to this article, they gave more personality to Wayne Gretzky in this cartoon than the actual Wayne Gretzky in real life.
I mean, I believe it, as we'll discuss when we get to their interviews segments.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I could see that. Sadly, because professional sports players, they aren't exactly known, at least, as being very lively on the mic. They're
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, Bo was certainly more charismatic than Wayne,
Sure.
and you've got Terry Crews. I mean, that guy's oozing charisma.
Right.
Deion Sanders,
William the Refrigerator Perry was made into a G.I.
Sure.
Joe.
Oh, yeah, and the guy that wrestled Bam Bam, Lawrence Taylor, and
Oh yeah, yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
I'm not
so
saying. I would say generally, they're usually when they're interviewed after the game, it's not the best. But I mean, I just think it's hilarious. I mean, I guess it makes sense for the '90s, where a couple of studio execs were just like, hey, these guys, these popular guys, they need a cartoon. but
yeah.
but I mean, at least you can throw professional voice actors out, as doing their voices instead of having them do it.
Right. They do not voice and they being, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, and Bo Jackson,
Hmm.
they do not voice themselves in the cartoon
We can just
segments.
refer to them as the holy trinity of sports at this point.
Sure, sure,
Before
sure.
we get into ProStars, though, in case anyone can't figure out at the taping of this, it's the Super
The
Bowl, the
taping of
taping,
this.
whatever. I mean, that's what they say in the biz if this was like the 90s. But no, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and so yes, this is obviously I picked this show specifically to tie in with the Super Bowl, whatever, just for fun. We were gonna get to Super Pro or Super.
You're a fanatic, Steve. You're a sports
I'm a
fanatic. You don't
fanatic.
have to make excuses. Everybody gets it,
I
man.
mean, I wish I was. I feel like I'd be able to fit into American society a lot better if I actually cared.
Steve, you're your own touchdown.
Is that, is that going to be on the Valentine that you're going to send me coming up? Because that's
That's the next No Fear shirt.
uh,
Be your own
be your
touchdown.
own.
No
Oh,
fear.
damn, that's pretty good, actually. I mean, I feel like when we finally do some serious merchandising for this show, we're just going to have our own knockoff No Fear shirts. So you make sure you write down this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
It's not going to be No
In
Fear.
life, in life, there are no end zones. Like just something that sounds
Yeah.
deep, but it's really
And
not tied to
Obscurity Now.
sports.
Instead of No Fear, it's Obscurity Now.
We gotta have some move here. We'll workshop this because I feel like we need.
We'll spell No Fear wrong, and that way we won't get sued.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll work.
Hey, that's
All right, but
that's how
anyway,
Vince McMahon gets around all those wrestlers' names. I mean, Kane, Kane. Come on, come on. But yeah, I just wanted to know. Have you ever cared about the Super Bowl? Do you have any memories of going to Super Bowl parties, or have you ever cared about professional American football in general?
I did have a season of the Bucks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that I like tried and to like get into it or whatever.
it's, that's so funny. It's like, well, I experimented with gay sex once, but I just didn't like it.
I just had to find out.
Right.
And it was, the if the games were like an hour long, maybe but it's a big time sink,
Oh,
man.
sure.
Um, but yeah, I just couldn't really get into it. And funny enough, so at that time the Bucks were notorious for like being a terrible team, and I happened to try watching an entire season. I mean, I did watch the entire season. The year before they got good and went to the Super Bowl
I
and
remember
won.
I was still living in Tampa when they won the Super Bowl. It was pretty crazy when there were a bunch of idiots running out in the street in their boxers, and yeah, it was
Yeah,
stupid
as
all
if though
around.
they had accomplished something.
Right, right, exactly. And I mean, I was raised to like and participate in football. And I actually played on like some, I don't know, rec leagues or something. I mean, I don't know why anyone would want to play football out in the hot Florida sun, but they do. They do. And
Well, you play for the CTE, you
the
know,
what?
the CTE.
What is that?
It's, it's a disease you get from concussions.
Oh, right, of course. Oh, I was thinking of something
I
else.
see you've played for the CTE. You see,
Huh?
so you're
What
proving
was
my point.
that? CTM. I love
got,
country television music.
you got one too many pre-puberty concussions playing Pee Wee football or something.
Right. But no, I don't know. And then Super Bowl would come around. We'd go over to someone's house and for a Super Bowl party, and they were fine. I would just
Sure.
hang out with other kids, and then and then I don't know. Much like kind of like with religion, I just realized that the team winning or
Was it
losing.
real?
Well, no, not that it wasn't real, but it just didn't affect my life in any way. Basically, like I tried caring, and then people would either win or lose, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't. I still have to go to school tomorrow. This sucks. Like it's a.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really in. I've been to a few Super Bowl parties.
Mhm.
I'm also not into sports or whatever, but I've been to a few that have been like fun, where they would do stuff like either you pick a team, and if the other team scores a touchdown, you have to take a shot,
Sure, an
or
excuse to
if
drink.
your team gets your first down, you get like, I don't know, a cupcake. That they do stupid shit like that to
Right.
make it fun or whatever. But I mean, you can do that with the Royal Rumble, baby. You don't have to do that with the Super Bowl.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, just like with you, when we first moved to Tampa, Tampa was still wearing like the hot pink uniform with that Buccaneer Bruce guy on it, and it was like $20 to go see it.
Orange, you mean?
Orange, yeah, yeah, whatever. The neon.
It's a little different.
Uh, but yeah, so that
It was like Nickelodeon orange with like a dark orange, almost red stripe.
yes, but yeah, that was my like first pro football viewing IRL, and I got to go to the new stadium at one point. Like I don't know, it was just something to do. Like I didn't hate it, but there's no
It's
I'm,
it's it's okay in person, but again, it's just too long. It
right.
just takes too long.
Someone before we moved away from Tampa permanently, someone gave us their like reserved seats, and Sandy and I went, and we left at halftime. It was fine, but who wants to talk about real sports when we've got the pro stars to talk about? You ready to
Indeed.
dive into pro stars?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's do this.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
All righty. All right. So, ProStars. And basically, the synopsis for it is three of the most famous sports stars of the day: basketball star Michael Jordan, hockey star Wayne Gretzky, and it's weird. In the IMDb, it says baseball star Bo Jackson. They didn't mention that he was also a football star. Team up to respond to emergencies around the world. And I'd be interested to see because I mean, I guess we didn't actually talk about the show and our history with it, but I mean, this is the only full episode I saw all the way through. But I wonder if you get to like episode 10, if they're like going to Egypt and they're like doing sports moves off the pyramids, or I don't know if they go to like Easter Island and Bo Jackson has to like body check one of those weird head things. But yeah, here they just
I mean, I'm sure they do stuff like that, especially with the '90s. There's almost they almost have to go to Egypt at some point.
right, of course. So this is a 13 episodes, one season long. That's probably a good thing. And this is a season one, episode one. The Slugger returns, which I always think it's weird if you have a word like returns in your first episode ever, because it makes it sound like there were other episodes for someone to leave and we were waiting for them to return. Did you get that?
I could see that.
And it premiered September 14th, 1991. And here's a synopsis for the episode. The ProStars arrive at a sports museum to help a boy find his missing father, a famous athlete called Slugger Hanks, only to face Clockwork De Laurent, a mad supervillain obsessed with destroying Major League Baseball, who's taken over the museum with his futuristic tech that brings inanimate objects to life. Before I go any deeper, have you ever seen an episode of ProStars in your life?
No, I vaguely remember it existing, but no, I never saw this, and I guess I would have been the right age for this because this came out in '91,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. But no. But again, even as a kid, I mean, I wasn't really that into sports, with the exception of I would watch a little basketball here and
Mm-hmm.
there. Um, and at the time, like Jordan and the Bulls, like were like ubiquitous. Like it was impossible to escape
Of course.
them. But yeah, I didn't really. I know I never watched it before. That's for sure.
Yeah, I remember like maybe while waiting for something else to come on, I caught maybe like 5, 10 minutes of it, and I saw like Wayne Gretzky with his, I don't know, robotic like hockey stick that shot out pucks that he could like hit at criminals. And even then, I was like, no, thank you. This looks stupid. And I think by the time we're done going through all the notes, I think, Yahel, that I'm still gonna think that way. But we'll see.
Oh wow. I'm shocked, Steven. Just absolutely shocked.
Yeah. Okay, so this was directed by, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say, like, they've got some cartoon veterans on this show, which really sort of puzzles me because of, I'm just going to say it, because of how bad it is. And yeah, I know, your mouth is agape in case people aren't watching. Yeah, he just got the vapors, ladies and gentlemen, and clutched his pearls. But anyway, this is directed by Michael Maliani, and he has worked on such classic shows as Mask, Captain N and the Game Master, which we have to cover someday. Also, have to put on the list, Hammerman. Do you remember Hammerman?
Is that that's not the MC Hammer cartoon, is it?
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, yeah. I've watched. I remember watching a few episodes of that. Not so much because I wanted to, but I had a friend who liked it.
Are you still friends with that friend?
I mean, I wouldn't like get into a fight with him if I saw him. You know, I'd be friendly, but no, he was a good guy. He was a good friend. But you know, I'm not saying that the reason why I got laid before him is because he was a fan of the MC Hammer cartoon. But I don't think we could ignore the possibility either.
Right.
We doing the study into this.
Sure, of course. And there is one last thing that at least I found interesting that he worked on called Inspector Gadget's Last Case. Like, I never knew there was a last case for Inspector Gadget. We might have to...
Well, everyone's got to die sometime.
But isn't he like a robot? All right.
Only part robot, Steve. And hey, you can turn off a machine.
Inspector Gadget's all man where it counts. So this was written, and I use the word written in quotations here, by one Douglas Booth. And this guy had a... Did you look into
this guy by any chance?
Yeah, I did, and saw all the classic shows that he worked on.
I mean, like his background, he has like royal blood, and he's like a sir, and all this stuff.
That wasn't in the IMDb that I saw.
No, it was in his wiki.
He's obviously a descendant of John Wilkes Booth, which totally makes sense.
I was gonna make that joke. He's like a British descendant.
I guess that explains why he got to work on so many great shows, because of nepotism, I guess. But anyway, Douglas Booth, he worked on the original He-Man, G.I. Joe, TMNT, Transformers, GoBots, the X-Men that everyone loves, Street Sharks, which we already covered, Mighty Max, Captain Planet, which we already covered, Ultra Force, and he's still working to this day. He's got projects that have yet to be, come to fruition.
He has lots of anti-Semitic projects in the works.
Yes. What will the heathens like to watch animated now? How about Hitler, the animated series? What do you think of that?
He did produce some stuff specifically for German television in the mid-2000s. But the funny thing is, when I was looking into him, I started looking into him because, as we'll get to, like, there's a character who's a very, like, very untactful, to say the least, Jewish stereotype, like a Yiddish stereotype. And I was like, man, does this guy have, like, is this like a thing he always does? So I just tried looking up to see if there was any actual anti-Semitism, like, in his history aside from this. And I'm happy to report I didn't find any, so that's good. But his IMDb in his Wikipedia, he's referred to as Sir Douglas Allen Booth, 3rd Baronet. That's his official royal title.
Plus writer.
And he is an Anglo-American aristocratic screenwriter and television producer. So you put some respect on Sir Douglas Allen Booth, 3rd Baronet, or he'll have the 4th or 5th Baronet come after you because he's above those.
Like, all right, since we're talking about this guy, did you read? I'm pretty sure he must have written his own IMDb because it is ridiculous. I'm just gonna bring it up here real quick.
Yeah, hit me with a piece of the booth.
The booth.
Give me a little booth beat.
Okay, it's okay. Douglas Booth, bio-born in the shadow of the Hollywood sign. Well, just down the block, into a pioneering Anglo-American television family. So that means Nepo baby. Douglas Booth, years later, graduated magna cum laude from Harvard University with a degree in American history and literature. Wondering.
And he got all A's too, I heard.
Yeah, Harvard College, Yale, yes.
Yeah, Harvard College, Yale, yes.
Wondering how he could create some historic literature himself, as well as occasionally paying the rent, he quite naturally turned to giant robots, garden fairies and elves, talking dogs, swashbuckling corsairs, time-traveling teenagers, and... oh, this just goes on. And his and talking dogs
and stereotypes
and superheroes in tights as his preferred co-conspirators in this ongoing endeavor. And there's like 3 more paragraphs after that. But yes, it says mini biography written by Douglas Booth. So there you go. You Boothites.
Straight from the baronet's mouth.
Yeah, exactly. The commandant or the Führer. But here's just some fun trivia before you take over the cast. And also, I know why her name is Mom. That's the character you keep referring to, who is the Jewish stereotype. When we get to her, I'll explain why, or sort of why she's that way. But anyway, this show was initially set to air on ESPN as part of a kids block they were planning on releasing. But whatever, the plans were scrapped, and it got picked up by NBC for Saturday morning cartoons. And originally, the show planned on having 4 athletes for all 4 major team sports, baseball, basketball, football, and hockey. But basically, because of budget issues, they just cut it down to 3. And they were like, hey, we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone with old Bo here. And so, obviously, Bo Jackson represents football and baseball. Go ahead. Who are some of the...
And Michael Jordan played some baseball himself.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And hey, how about golf while we're at it? But when I was looking for images for the Obscuritron, I did notice that there is an episode where Michael Jordan is playing golf, in case anyone cared. So who are some of the thespians who lent their voice to ProStars?
All right, so there's a pretty big cast, but I'm really only going to go over the main people because there's like 30 people in this episode for some reason, which is odd because usually, you would have, one of these people that are just doing voices. They're only credited as voice. Usually they would be doing multiple voices, and that's how you save some of that sweet, sweet money.
Right.
Our good friend, though, I did notice Charlie Adler is back.
From Brave
he's
Star,
like
right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's been in like almost every cartoon we've covered. The only other one of these like people who don't get a named character that I do want to cover is Marv Albert being in there as himself.
Didn't he like bite some guy or something?
I was trying to remember what the controversy was. I thought he got caught like with a prostitute.
That might be it. I think we really should have looked this up.
Yeah. Oh, sexual assault. The woman accused Albert of throwing her onto a bed, biting her. Good memories. That's what you're the fanatic.
That's me.
Biting her, then forcing her to perform. Well, this is just kidding. It's not good.
Well,
it's not
let's
good.
Just say Marv Albert and Vince McMahon are good friends.
Yes, they are. And let's just say that the DNA testing linked Albert to the genetic material taken from the bite marks.
Oh, damn. It's messed up. All right, carry on.
Yeah, that's what in the medical and NBA profession is called a slam dunk, or in the criminal profession.
Zing.
I should have made light of that. Glad he got
30
caught.
years
Fuck
ago.
that
Yeah,
guy.
fuck that guy.
Vince McMahon.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right, moving right along though to the main cast, we've got Diana. I already lost her. Diana Barrows here. She plays the niece. She's kind of the assistant to the mom character. She's done a bunch of cartoons and some live action stuff, but again, nothing where she's like the star.
Right.
Um, we've got Susan Silo who plays Mom. She's done a bunch of cartoons and looks like she's still working. She's been in the Curious George series, which is still going on. Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl 2, which is like a Smash Brothers clone with Nickelodeon characters. The Last of Us. So she does a lot of video game stuff, a lot of animated stuff still. So she's working hard, much like the third Baronet.
Right.
Then we've got Dorian Harewood. He plays the voice of Michael Jordan. This guy, I definitely recognize, and I think most people would. He's been in a lot of stuff, a lot of live action stuff. I didn't know his name until today because he's, again, never like the headlining guy. He's played a cop a bunch of times. He's still acting, but I like him. He's a good actor. I think the thing I most recently saw him on actually is Seventh Heaven.
You've been watching.
Yep, it was in 10 episodes of
Are we
Seventh
supposed
Heaven.
to cover Seventh Heaven for some reason?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched an episode in like 6 or 7 months, but dude, there's nothing like, I kind of just forgot about it, but there's nothing like having a gummy and watching Seventh Heaven, man. It is hilarious. Or even sober.
I'll take your word for it.
Ridiculous. All right, moving right along. Second to last, we've got Townsend Coleman, who plays the voice of Wayne Gretzky. He's also in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. He's been in a bunch of stuff, though. He's been in The Tick, a bunch of animated stuff, video games, blah, blah, blah.
He's one of the Ninja Turtles, too, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, looks like he did a few characters on the Ninja
Rat
Turtles.
King, and for some reason it has him down as the Shredder. I know that's not right, though. Yeah, there you go.
Alrighty, moving right along to our last actor, we have Dave Fennoy. He is playing the voice of Bo Jackson. Again, like a lot of these people, tons of video games, tons of animated stuff. But my favorite video game that he's been in, Steve, is Star Trek Online.
Oh, wow.
That's right. Even here in the depths of ProStars, there's technically 2 Star Trek connections, but Charlie Adler comes up too often to keep coming back to him. But that is our one and only new Star Trek connection.
All right, here we go.
Oh no! We've just entered another Star Trek connection.
Here we go. So is that it for the cast then?
That is it for the cast. You know, I always leave the best for last, being the Star Trek connections.
Of course. All right, so we'll just dive into season 1, episode 1 of ProStars here. The Slugger returns. I guess there was clearly like a prequel movie in which the Slugger originally left, but you'll see it.
This is not the first time the Slugger has abandoned his son, is what I gathered.
Hey, you know those pro athletes. They're gonna
got a reputation.
They're gonna sleep around a little. You know, I mean, they're at the top of their game. They're gods. Let's just say what they are. They're gods.
They're always looking for the next end zone to dive into, if you know what I mean, Steve. The next home plate to grace with their bats.
The next boom shakalaka. Eh?
Yeah. The next goal to stick their puck into.
Right. Or to plant their golf flag in. Does that work?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway.
I don't know.
Well, neither does this show. So here we go.
For their next hole in one night. You know what? Never mind.
That's good. So here we go. The opening theme begins, and it sounds like a terrible, like it's trying to be like a stadium anthem, kind of like "We Will Rock You" from Wish.
Yes, that's exactly what it's basically like the royalty-free version of Queens, We Will Rock You. Like, they changed it just enough.
And if you look on the Wikipedia and IMDb, it confirms that. Like, I wrote that down before, like I did the research, and yeah, that's exactly what they were going for. And basically the opening shot here is of a real crowd and like the most 90s like ProStar logo you could think of. And then there's live sports footage. Do you think it's wise to start your cartoon off with like live action footage? I mean,
No, I don't.
and then we get the sort of the semi motto of ProStars where it's ProStars. It's all about helping the kids, and that's basically how they end the opening theme. Like it's basically a highlight reel. The opening is a highlight reel because it's all live action of obviously Bo Jackson, Wayne Gretzky, and Jordan. And then there's a little bit of animation thrown in there. So the show begins, and then we see even more live footage of our heroes. And I noticed that the soundtrack was very sort of jazz fusion-y, 90s jazz fusion, which I appreciated. I mean, I don't know what 8-year-olds are going to think about it back in the 90s, but
Yeah, the soundtrack was surprisingly better than I expected, and they didn't reuse like the same single song over and over and over again. So, got to give them credit for that.
yeah, that's probably like the one plus here. So basically, as Yahel said earlier, kids, they send in video questions, and how do you think they pulled this off? Like, do you think there was just like a camera inside of a thing at a theme park and someone was like, hey kids, come over here if you've got a question for Wayne Gretzky or Jordan or whoever, just come over here, because everyone looked like tired and like they had to be coached to like ask the question. I don't know, what do you think?
I suspect that they told the kids what to ask, and they had already filmed the answers to the questions. That's how I would do it, because I mean, I've been around children. You can't count on them to like ask anything insightful or interesting. I mean, you might interview like 100 kids and walk away, with nothing.
Speaking of kids, I've been directing my son in his own YouTube videos now. Now, I assume that most of the people who listen to Obscurity Now are like, childless cat people. But if you're not,
Like me.
exactly. But if you're not, if you have kids, you should definitely check out Blade Plays, my son's YouTube channel. First video actually did pretty good. But
Oh, good. Maybe we should sponsor him, but put an ad on his channel.
yeah, it might come to that. It might come to that. So yeah, like I would say the kids and the ProStars themselves, it's all a poor, like low energy, poorly acted Q&A all around, and not something that got me hyped for the cartoon at all. So anyway, the cartoon begins and we get a close-up of a VHS tape inserted into a VCR, which I found highly arousing.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. I was almost there. Almost.
You're
there.
just like physical
Actually,
media.
I have one of my videos on my channel starts off like that with just like a videotape going into like a VHS player. If you want me to send you a clip, Steve, for your Spank Bank,
Wait,
let me
one
know.
of your new videos or one of the?
No, my Nick Arcade video.
Oh,
starts
I
off.
think I remember that. But yeah, I mean, I could watch that all day in slow motion with jazz fusion playing in the background. All right, here we go. The three ProStars are gathered around in this massive, like, it's like a warehouse / lab combination. Very kind of 90s, lair. It looked like something the Roundhouse would be dancing around in.
Sure, I can see that.
And there's a huge TV, just like what Bruce Wayne had in the '89 Batman movie. And once again, we get a kid appearing on the monitor. He's animated this time, and he asks the ProStars to help him find his dad. He says his dad said something about Cleats Robinson, and then he disappeared and never came back.
His lover, Cleats Robinson.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. But then there's also an important part where he says he was telling his dad something. Then his dad left and said something about Cleats Robinson, and then he was never seen again. Then we get one of many Bo Knows lines here, where Bo Jackson then says, Bo knows baseball history, and Cleats Robinson has been dead for years. And then Jordan says, there's only one thing to do. And they all yell, it's game time, and give each other, like, I think it's the wrist high five. Would you call it a wrist high five?
Yeah, it's like a.
They're all like,
Oh man, yeah, it's like a forearm to forearm kind of. It's something that's gonna hurt. It's gonna break somebody's forearm here one of these days.
Let's see. I think if anyone's at risk, it would probably be Jordan. Although I was always confused about Wayne Gretzky, because you'd think to be a hockey player, you'd need to be, pretty jacked. But he always just looked so skinny.
But it's a lot of legs, right? I would think.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, I think.
No, I'll try to find some shirtless pictures of Wayne Gretzky and let you know.
Yeah, just make sure there's.
Let me just open an incognito
Just make
tab.
sure there's jazz fusion playing in the background. So they yell it's game time, and then they wrist five each other, and then we basically get a cut to or a transition, and they are still in the warehouse, and two characters have appeared out of nowhere. And those characters are Denise, the younger apprentice of Mom, who is the Jewish stereotype gadget person. She's basically their Q, like Q from James Bond, or in our case, James Bond Jr. Yeah, she makes them all their gadgets and stuff. And for some reason, she's super Yiddish or Jewish, however you want to say it. And
yeah, they have her saying like a lot of like Yiddish phrases. They've got like the stereotypical like Jewish accent you would hear a lot in the 90s. Which I mean that stuff's like not great, but I think what really ties the racism all together and really kind of puts it into like the this is kind of not good territory for me at least, is they gave her like a hook nose, like a big hook nose.
Yeah.
Which is
right.
Which has traditionally been used in, to make fun of Jewish people, like in drawings and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I don't necessarily think that that's what they meant to do, but that's kind of how it comes off. I think even then I would have been like, ugh.
All right, well, I think I found the answer. I mean, now your theory about Douglas here being a racist, that could be true, but according to the wiki, the person doing the voice of Mom was originally supposed to be Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Do you remember her?
Like Dr. Ruth, the sex
lady?
The sex therapist or whatever?
And that's the thing. They decided that, since she's most...
She doesn't look like that.
I'm just telling you what I read, man. She said, but since she's most famous for as being a sex therapist, it would have created too much controversy for a Saturday morning cartoon. And so the character was then altered to be a more generic character. So
I mean, I'm looking at some pictures of her. I mean, she doesn't really look like that. I was trying to remember. Maybe she had a large nose, and I don't remember. But nope.
No, I mean,
it's not.
I'm saying they don't look the same, but they kind of have.
Oh, like they even redesigned the character.
Yeah,
I see what
they
you're
have
saying.
Similar sort of accents, kind of. But yeah, there you go. They just sort of.
The voice is similar, but Dr. Ruth didn't speak in a bunch of like just stereotypical Yiddish parables.
No. But I remember she did have some kind of an accent. I don't know if it was Yiddish or not, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, she is Jewish. I mean, and the thing about so Steve, the thing that to me makes this extra strange is that I don't know if you noticed, but Dr. Ruth, she's a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah,
she was in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
So like. Oh man, like that makes it like extra strange.
But why would you even think about casting a sex therapist as the voice of your Q character anyway?
Hey man, maybe she had the best audition.
You can't argue with that. You can't argue.
And if anyone knows about gadgets and creative ways to use them,
be Dr. Ruth. Yeah, there. I mean, but hey, 8-year-olds, don't you love Dr. Ruth Westheimer? And they're just like, who? All right, moving along here. So Denise, her younger, more attractive apprentice, demonstrates some of the gear, including a wristband that turns into a hockey stick and a boomerang puck. And I meant to add that this is this whole, I guess, script or episode is just an exercise in just the laziest writing. I mean, because we never got introduced to Denise or Mom in any way. They just magically showed up. They didn't even walk through a door. They just they cut to them being there, and we just have to accept that. I don't know. They're just part of the team or whatever. I mean, I had to look up the name of Mom to find out that that was her name because they never even used it. I don't think. But anyway. So she's
I mean, they call her. They do call her Mom a few times.
Well, yeah, later on. I mean, just in the opening scene when we're first introduced.
Right. Oh, you mean right?
Yeah. I mean, later on they definitely say Mom for sure. But anyway, so Mom grabs a bat that shoots baseballs at everyone. Oh, like another when they try these attempts at humor, it's just the height of. I just kept writing lame over and over again. I guess it's just supposed to be, slapsticky. Mom grabs the bat that shoots baseballs at everyone, and they're all like, "Oh, Mom, what are you doing?" And then there's also a bat that has a lightsaber in it, which I actually thought was kind of cool. And then,
but then later it's used just as a flashlight. Basically.
Oh, of course, so, nobody's gonna get actually stabbed with that lightsaber.
Even though, I'm just saying they called it a laser thing, but it ends up just being a flashlight. It was
right. And then there's inflatable basketballs that lift Mom into the air, and she goes, "Meet me on the roof." Anything to add about that scene?
No. I mean, I will say that at this point, I knew I was not in for a good time.
Oh, yeah. Same here. I was like...
I thought at the very, very beginning of the episode where it starts off with the live action clips of games and stuff and Wayne and Bo talking a little bit. There's a lot of really very hyper 90s kind of aesthetic editing, and I'm like, oh, this might be fun for the nostalgia factor. No.
Yeah. No. If they would have been self-aware like a Biker Mice from Mars, that would have probably helped a lot, but unfortunately they're not, as you're about to see. So cut to, they're now on the roof outside. The ProStars are now in a typical sort of toyetic or toy-like looking jet. And then they take off, and we get Michael Jordan here saying, I was born to fly, because he's the one piloting the jet. Do you get it, Yahel? Do you get it?
I get it. He jumps real far.
Right. And then
real
they
high.
arrive at the Museum of American Sports, where Jimmy, that was the boy on the screen earlier, he said that's where his dad worked. That's where he disappeared, basically. We get another sad attempt at humor where Wayne Gretzky acts like the flight attendant over an intercom, and he's like, take your tray tables in the upright position, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, man, who would think that this is funny, Yahel? Who?
I don't know.
Douglas? Douglas Booth?
I guess this is the kind of humor they do at the Queen's Court, Stephen. The kind of highbrow comedy only the third baronet can bring you. Even the first and second baronet won't give this
the
to you.
Queen, she's all, put your tray tables in the upright position. I've always wanted to do that. Yeah, I see it. So it's weird. Jimmy is just sitting there on the steps of the museum by himself. And now that brings to mind, how long has he been there? He lost his dad and nobody ever came to help him?
I don't know. I guess he doesn't have a mom, or she's out of the picture. She's tired of her dad's shit.
I mean...
it's not the Slugger return, Steve. It's the Slugger returns.
And they don't just call him the Slugger because he's good at hitting baseballs. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. He loves slugs. Oh, he loves hitting her? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I guess you could take it that way. Let's see.
I guess maybe that's how she took it.
All will be revealed in the highly crafted script of The Slugger Returns. Okay.
Yeah. Steve, I think the stream is buffering quite a bit. Like you're fine on Skype. The bit rate's definitely bad, the frame rate.
Well, I mean, I don't know. What do you want? Should we restart? What do you want to do?
Nah, we might as well continue, and you can always re-upload it, right?
I mean, yeah. It'll. The recording will turn out fine. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's just keep
Yeah.
going. I don't want to relive it.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, no one is here anyway, so they're all watching the Super Bowl pregame show, I assume.
They're all watching ProStars, I assume.
Oh, so yeah, Jimmy's sitting there. He says he thinks his dad left because he told him that he quit Little League Baseball. And I love in the world of the ProStars that is the most devastating thing that a boy can tell his father is. I could just see the conversation now. It's like, Dad, I wanna talk to you about something. It's like, oh, did one of your teachers like touch you? Because if they did, that's okay. No, I'm quitting Little League. What? You're quitting Little League? And then he just storms off and he's never seen again. That's the headcanon I have going on here. So Jimmy
Nice.
tells us that Slugger Hanks was his aforementioned dad, and he's a great baseball player. Jordan says that they are on the case. And on a monitor, we see a mad scientist type looking guy watching Jimmy and the ProStars enter the museum. This is Clockwork De Laurent, even though later he's referred to, I think by Wayne, I have it written in my notes as Clockwork Orange, which is a weird thing to reference in a kid's cartoon.
Yeah, it is. Not exactly like the kind of thing you want kids to go look up, but it's 1991. I mean,
And
what are they gonna do? Get on the internet and like find Clockwork Orange movie and download it, watch it on their real player?
I mean, I could tell that Douglas Booth here is probably a big time Clockwork Orange fan because of the treatment of women in it. Anyway, he's mad that the ProStars are there, but he doesn't care because he's insane. Of course, he's all monologuing this to like no one, which is the one thing I hate.
Naturally,
I hate most
as you do.
about like badly written like kids cartoons is the monologuing. He monologues, or he tells us that once his electronic wave generators are activated, he'll have control of all the exhibits in the museum and will be ready for the next phase of his plan. So behind him is a statue of Cleats, Jimmy's dad, who is completely inanimate, and he needs Jimmy as part of his plan to capture the commissioner of baseball. Man, already this is the most convoluted plan ever, don't you think?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. And the thing is, like, this guy, Clockwork Orange, he's developed like this technology to turn inanimate objects into robots he can control instantly. So, like, what do you even need the commissioner for?
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. It's so convoluted. Again, I mean, Mr. Booth must.
Well, we'll find out that like it's like he wants, money, from he wants to hold them hostage for money, but it's like, dude, you can like get money out of a bank so easily. You can turn the vault into a robot that will bring you the money.
But the ultimate motivation for Clockwork here is revenge because he
that's right.
never got to play center field when he was a boy.
That's right.
Which we're about to see. But all right. So the ProStars explore the museum. Clockwork, he gets over an intercom, tells them all to hand over Jimmy. And big surprise, the ProStars say no. Then Clockwork activates the exhibits. They somehow come to life. Oh, they explain later why they come to life. They form like this weird humanoid collection of like pads and stuff, basically for Bo Jackson to go up against. One of the statues comes to life and tries to take Jimmy, but Wayne stops him with the boomerang puck. Ooh, we get a few setups and payoffs all throughout this episode.
Oh, by the way, update on shirtless Wayne Gretzky and his body. Breaking news.
I want to know.
So, in shape, but not really buff. Not even like his legs. His legs surprisingly skinny. But one of the first pictures that came up when I searched Wayne Gretzky shirtless is a picture of him walking naked in what appears to be a hockey locker room, and his bits and body is covered only by soap suds.
Oh man!
And he's just walking around, smiling, talking about how he's just here to help kids.
Yeah, I think he did one of those Q&As like that in one of the later episodes, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
But yeah, in good shape, obviously, like not certainly not in bad shape, but yeah, not jacked at all.
right.
Not in my opinion.
So let's see. Jordan says the generators are obviously designed to turn inanimate objects into remote-controlled robots. Now, at this point, I'd like to ask you, Yahel, can you differentiate the ProStars from one another? Because we all know with the Ninja Turtles, Leonardo's the leader, Michelangelo's party dude, Donatello's science, and Raphael, either he's angry or he's sarcastic, depending on what you're watching. Who are the ProStars in this?
No, they all kind of have the same personality for the most part. Um, yeah, there's not really like a lot of discernible difference. They all tell bad jokes.
Mm-hmm.
They're all competent at fighting or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, by the way, I do want to say hello to JT Vega, who's in the chat. He just said pro stars.
Welcome, JT. Yeah, I mean, I would say they maybe sort of. All right, obviously, Wayne Gretzky is the comic relief, but
I guess.
yeah, I mean, it's not funny, but they were trying. He's like Shaggy, basically. He always wants to eat.
Yeah, but everybody makes jokes and puns. I mean,
Right. And the other guys, but it's a toss up between Michael and Bo because I think they wanted to make Michael Jordan the leader, but then Bo knows everything, so they both end up knowing everything. So yeah, there's
which is I guess Michael Jordan would have arguably been the biggest name of the three. But Bo Jackson was, in America at least, like pretty big name too.
Sure.
And Gretzky obviously a huge name, but hockey wasn't as popular then as it is now in America.
Right.
So he, but by default, would be number three. But I think it's weird that they wanted to make Jordan the leader because Wayne Gretzky and Bo Jackson are there all 13 episodes doing in-person segments.
Right.
Michael Jordan only did 5. So it's like, why not have your leader be one of the guys that's there? And frankly, I mean, Michael Jordan, like, he's pretty charismatic himself. He knows how to deal with people. But Bo Jackson, I think, is the most charismatic out of the three.
I agree. But I mean, clearly as we're going to see, this whole thing is just a cash grab. So I don't think they put a lot of thought into it. So let's see here. Wayne asks if the guys are hungry. So then they go to a snack bar. They call Mom and Denise and tell them about Clockwork de Laurent. And then Mom sends Denise to warn the commissioner about the fact that Clockwork is basically after him. And then we get another. I wrote down all of Bo's like crappy little Bo Knows lines. And this one we get a Bo Knows bad breath. We'll just say it's complete.
Yeah, that was possibly the worst one.
So Clockwork sends the world's biggest basketball after the ProStars. Jordan, it comes after Jordan and Bo, and they kick.
Yeah, like Temple of Doom style kind of.
Yes. And but using their very powerful calves and thighs, never skip leg day. Jordan and Bo, they kick the ball out of. Not only do they kick it out of the window of the museum, it goes into a nearby basketball hoop because they're just that damn good. The hell, they're just.
That's right.
And then Wayne realizes Jimmy is gone. Then we cut to Clockwork. He then sends a bear after the ProStars, and basically they do the old, "Ooh, don't look behind you, Wayne," because there's a bear there for some reason. I guess in the Museum of American Sports, they consider hunting a sport, so they had stuffed bears there. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, I guess so.
And for some reason, here, all right, Bo goes after the bear, and Bo says, "Bo knows wrestling." And it's funny, the autocorrect here on my notes, it said, "Bo knows wrestling with gaming." Are you guys friends? Are you and Bo friends behind my back?
I'm not at liberty to discuss.
Okay, he made you sign an NDA. I got it.
Bo knows NDAs.
Yeah, I bet he does. So at this point, Clockwork has captured Jimmy, and we get more monologuing from Clockwork here. He says, organized baseball will bankrupt itself, paying the commissioner's ransom, and revenge will be his. Clockwork then says when he was a kid, no one ever let him play center field, so now revenge will be his. Like, wow, I'm a huge fan of the Tick, and they've had some pretty wacky reasons for a lot of their villains, but like this is just ridiculous. What say you?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's just like not a good premise for a show to begin
No.
with. So I don't know how with this as your premise you're gonna make it good. I guess you could have made it good with actual funny dialogue, perhaps, and still keep your ridiculous premise. But yeah, pretty silly, not in a good way.
No. Yeah, they should have gone over the top Biker Mice from Mars with it, but whatever. So Jimmy finds his dad tied up. Clockwork tells Cleats, that's Jimmy's dad, to go meet the commissioner or the kid gets it. So Clockwork just threatened the life of a child. I just want everyone to know this is getting...
Already, he's my favorite character. So.
So now we're outside at the museum. There's a huge crowd and there's reporters. We see the commissioner and Denise. She tries very unsuccessfully to warn the commissioner as he greets Cleats. Clockwork then activates a massive baseball statue that was outside of the museum, and he uses it to capture the commissioner and Cleats. And
don't forget, when we had the baseball commissioner arrive, and him and Cleats shake hands, we had it narrated by convicted sexual predator Marv Albert.
He was the reporter. Yeah.
yeah.
Why? Again, like the weird thing about this show is it's like, how many 8-year-olds I guess they're probably around 8. Did you start caring about?
I don't know. I mean, if you're into sports, if you're like an 8 to 10-year-old that's into sports, and plenty were,
Sure.
I remember them at my school, losers.
You should have been watching Star Trek.
Yeah, what's wrong with you people? But they would recognize certainly Marv Albert and other announcers. So I kind of get it, but also, does it really add anything?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I only knew Marv Albert from his sexual
biting.
Yeah, exactly. But that was not till much later and made fun of by Conan O'Brien on Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Yeah. And I we didn't talk about it because I had forgotten that he was also found that there was a second accuser that said that when she went to his hotel room, he was wearing panties and a garter.
Oh, I remember that. Nice.
And then he did an interview with Barbara Walters where he was like, "Oh, that woman that accused me, she asked me to bite her."
Mm-hmm. Vince, I did what you told me to say. Did it work? I know you did a bad job. All right. So now we're back in the museum, and Wayne and Bo are in the belly of a shark. And that was the weird thing about the previous time that Clockwork sent some of his things after the ProStars, is that the scene, it just faded. It didn't even end. They were in mid-fight, fighting with that bear. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was so...
It made zero sense.
Weird. What a bad editing choice. So yeah, Wayne and Bo are in the belly of, I guess what we can assume is a stuffed shark. They escape and help Jordan escape from the bear. And now we're back with Clockwork. He tells everyone outside via intercom that in order to get the commissioner back, it will be $100 million or the combined salaries of all the left-handed pitchers in the majors. Is that a joke?
I didn't get that either.
Yeah.
Is he making a joke? Does he not know which is greater? But then the funny thing, unintentionally funny, is that the baseball commissioner says, "Oh, that'll bankrupt baseball." I'm like, $100 million will not bankrupt baseball.
Yeah, right. I mean, if a steroid scandal isn't going to do it, then I think they're going to be fine. So,
I'm sure baseball could lose several $100 million and be just fine.
Yeah. Oh no, you're right. So Jordan says he has a plan. Bo activates his vertical wall climbing shoes, and he walks up the statue, basically. Then
Yeah, like Batman from the
yeah,
60s.
yeah, exactly.
Somehow, like I was thinking about the physics of this, Steve, though. Like, wouldn't your back like
Yeah,
go backwards? Like he's like walking perfectly like perpendicular to it. It makes no sense, but
Bo knows to avoid the laws of physics. Yahel.
that's what it is.
So
Bo doesn't know
right
gravity.
there you go. Jordan pilots the plane. The statue hits the plane with a massive bat, but Jordan floats gently down with the help of the previously established helium basketballs. See, you are all like, huh, helium basketballs, those are useless. Nope, here they found a reason to use them.
All right, lots of Chekhov's
Yeah,
guns.
exactly. So Jordan tells Bo to aim for the left wrist, and then they do a close up of one of the wave controlling devices. He tries to shoot it with the bat gun that shoots baseballs, but the gun is jammed. But Bo Jackson is just so good. He takes out one of the balls and throws it at the wave generator and destroys it. Were you in as much awe as I was at this? It's a really triumph of the
Oh,
human spirit here.
yes, yes. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up, Steve, and I saluted the American flag as well.
See, Bo, he don't need no gadget. Bo knows everything. Bo knows triumph of the human will. So then we're back in with Clockwork, and he says he's losing control. Then the statue kind of falls over, but not all the way. And then Wayne and Jimmy are hanging on a ledge, and Jimmy's like, I'm falling. But Wayne's like, oh, no, you're not. You're fine. And then he falls, which I thought was actually kind of funny. And then
Yeah, and then Wayne very casually says, "Well, I guess he was right."
and then Wayne just jumps in after him, and then Jordan helps them with the helium basketballs. So Bo uses. There was a another thing that I forgot to mention is they have this grappling hook majigger, and he uses it to help Jordan down. And then Clockwork flies away on like a rocket bat or something. And
Sure.
then the statue falls to the ground. And then that is basically the end of the threat. There's a little bit more Slugger thanks to ProStars. And I love it. In order to make all this right and all to make it all worthwhile, Jimmy decides he wants to play Little League after all. Like didn't that bring a tear to your eye? I mean, all is right with the
Wow.
world now.
That's right. Well, and I will say the dad did tell him, "Hey, I don't care if you don't play uh, Little League. Nothing will make me leave you. You're not that good anyway." Uh,
And your dad had the same chat with you, right? When you were quitting
yeah,
sports.
I did play Little League, but I didn't even like it when I was a
Oh
kid.
man, the one. All right, so I tried everything when I was like super young, including t-ball. It was the most boring thing I ever played.
Yeah, baseball's
Yeah,
boring.
100%.
It's boring to watch. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I got dragged out to a baseball game by an ex. This is like in 2000.
The Rays?
Did I tell you about
No.
this? So I got dragged out. It's like in 2016 or something. Like it's back when I was with Stephanie. You know her.
Mm.
Anyway, I told her I didn't want to go. I don't like baseball. They really wanted me to go with her parents and blah 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 blah. I'm like, fine. I fell asleep.
Oh, I pictured it going a lot different because the big excuse for baseball, or I guess baseball fans, is that, oh, it's good if you're drunk. And I saw it as you went there and got so drunk you made an ass out of yourself. I'm gonna go with that.
Mm, I could see.
All right, so Jordan tells us that the Pro Stars are all about helping kids, and he looks right at the camera and everything. I don't know if they're trying to like justify the existence of the show or something. It's like they're trying to tell Tipper Gore that they're not just here to sell sports merchandise. They're here to help the kids or something. I don't know, but they're
Right,
really
right.
trying to drive that message home. And then we get more live action footage of kids asking questions to Bo Jackson and Wayne because Michael Jordan is he's got more stuff to do better stuff to do than to sit around and answer kids' questions on ProStars. And that's the episode.
Yeah, and I read that Michael Jordan, when he does appear, he's usually only there for like a line or two on the episodes that he appeared. So he like just came in and did the least. But we didn't really talk about the live action segment, Steve. So there's like a mid-break live action segment where uh, it's like they ask Wayne Gretzky or they ask both, Wayne and Bo if they ever quit
Right, I
anything.
remember that.
And Wayne Gretzky forgot that he was filming a television show and thought he was at therapy for a second. He started talking about how he wanted to quit hockey when he was 13, not because he didn't like playing hockey, but because of all the politics.
Yeah, I heard that.
All of the politics involved in like hockey for like teenagers, and then he looks like, and he's like very serious about it.
I remember
He's
that.
like very solemn, and then he like has this like long pause, and then he goes, there were just some people that I don't think should have been involved.
So basically, the coach's son was getting pushed, and they were making teenage Wayne Gretzky, ride the pine back then. So
Yeah, I don't know what was going on, but then another thing that they asked them about later on at the end of the show is how do they get ready for like a game, and Wayne Gretzky, or yeah, like how, I can't remember if it was how or when do you start to get ready for a game, but Wayne Gretzky's answer was, well, I started to get ready the day before. And then they cut to that's his answer. Then they cut to Bo, who says, "How do I get ready for a football game? I sleep."
that'd be my answer. Yeah.
Then they cut back to Wayne Gretzky. He goes, "I have a big breakfast, and then I have a big lunch, and then I sleep for 2 hours before the game." And then they both talk about the importance of like sleeping and being well rested before a game, which like I get it that it's true, but you'd think like they would have answered something more inspirational.
Right.
And then they're asked about what other athlete Bo and Wayne Gretzky think should be would make a good fourth pro star. Bo Jackson takes forever to come up with his answer. It's Nolan Ryan. He gives a good reason. He said because he outlasted, all of the pitchers of his era and was still great, like even at the end. So good answer, thoughtful answer. Wayne Gretzky's answer, do you remember?
I don't.
Andre Agassi, the tennis player. And it's not like funny that it's tennis. It's funny because then Wing starts looking around at like presumably the director and production people there, and he's like, "Huh? Surprised you all with that one. You weren't expecting that." And they go on. He says like a variation of that like 3 or 4 more times, and that's how they end it.
Wow. See, Wayne Gretzky is the cut up after all. He is the comic relief. Such a.
And then Wayne, got up, and you could see that from his neck down, it was all suds. And he walked away.
Wow, really weird for a kid's cartoon, but
yeah. I don't know if the version you saw had that. It's all
the
suds.
uncut version, yeah. ProStars After Dark. But are you ready to render your verdict on ProStars?
Let's do it.
Remember how underrated that is the question.
All right, ProStar Velazquez. Do you think that ProStars, the cartoon, should be remembered for all of human history, or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
This was terrible. It's not well written. It's not funny. It's not interesting. I could actually watch more clips of Wayne and Bo being awkwardly answering questions.
Sure.
I could actually watch more of that. But nah, man, this show sucks. And I don't think it was intentional, but it certainly seems a little racist with that one character. Again, I don't really think it was intentional. They just kind of like, they leaned into it too much.
Sure.
Thankfully, they didn't do any other stereotypes, at least this episode.
Right. They have a Kazakhstani stereotype later on in episode 12. I pretty much agree with you. This is obviously a cash grab. I would say this is almost, or maybe on par with Bruno the Kid, which I would say is probably the worst cartoon that we've reviewed. Not funny, cringy, bad writing. Aside from the soundtrack, there's really not much else to say. However, I did enjoy discussing it. I could see, I don't know, if you had like a bunch of weird friends over and decided to get drunk and want to watch something terrible, you could probably do with ProStars on YouTube. But other than that, yeah, this definitely deserves to be obliterated. So it shall be.
The heathens have spoken. You are obliterated.
All right, I see we got a Smoke Monster in here. He came in right at the end of the show. Good job. Good to see you again, though.
Hey, thanks for dropping in, buddy.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it either way.
Yeah.
By the way, the finale, the final episode of the series is a clip show.
Ooh. I mean, I'm just hoping that there's an episode where somebody gets hooked on drugs and the ProStars have to tell them not to do it. I mean, because that was...
There probably is something like it, but I'm not going to read through all of these.
Hey, Jimmy, you don't need steroids. And then Bo Jackson just like casually grabs it and puts it in his pocket.
And says, yes, you do.
I need them. So before we sign off here, you want any Super Bowl predictions?
I didn't even know it was playing until today.
Well, Taylor Swift versus somebody else.
Yeah, I predict a certain section of the population will be upset about Taylor Swift. That's my big prediction for the Super Bowl.
I was going to say, one other reason that I used to kind of watch the Super Bowl was for the commercials. Because, they would...
But they're not even fun anymore.
Well, I was going to say there's no reason to because they're all on the internet the next day. Like...
Well, they've a lot of times they'll put them out before the Super Bowl. Like I know the Paramount Plus Super Bowl commercial has been out for over a week.
I remember the last Super Bowl. I think I actually got excited for. Man, it's so old. Was when Ang Lee's The Hulk. They were gonna have a trailer for that in it, and I remember seeing said trailer, and I was like, "Wow, that Hulk sure looks terrible," but he looked better in the movie.
Well, I think too the thing about why I think Super Bowl commercials, part of the reason why they're not as fun or it's not like as big part of the experience anymore is that as the quality production values have increased across the board in TV and film and stuff, like a lot of times in a Super Bowl commercial some company would go all out and spend $1 billion on some crazy special effect you've never seen before, and you wouldn't put it in a movie because it's too expensive to have in a whole movie, but a 30-second spot, you can have it be 5 seconds of it, or something like unique or interesting. But like now when TV look like movies and, so do commercials, like what is it, unless you have a particularly creative or funny one, which there usually aren't any. Like it seems like the big crutch these days is just to stick a bunch of like celebrities from different fields into like one commercial.
I was gonna say that, or it's like who can we dig up from the past who like no one's seen in a while? It's like, oh, look at that, we got Tony Danza, or
yeah,
exactly. Like you leave obscurity to us, there, commercial makers. Yeah, well, I think that is pretty much our show. Hopefully, by the time you're listening to this, if the Super Bowl is over, then the Kansas City Chiefs will have won, thus proving that the conspiracy was true. I can't believe... You hate it so much, don't you?
Yes.
I'm sure you're looking forward to all this being over. Yeah, speaking of things being over, I think that's our show. Make sure you subscribe and comment and share. Please help us fight that YouTube algorithm. Any updates you want to tell to the world there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm on the editing phase of my video. Actually, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to hit render on the opening intro that I've been working on modeling and animating for a couple of weeks here. So yeah, I should have a new video out pretty soon. Unfortunately for me, it looks like it's going to be a pretty long one unless I can trim some of it out in the edit. But
Nice. And as I mentioned before, if you've got kids, check out my son's YouTube channel, Blaze Plays. And other than that,
isn't his name spelled like BLAY?
that's it.
That's
BLAYDE,
important.
and then plays with an exclamation point. There's actually another YouTube channel called and spelled the same way, Blade Plays. I couldn't believe it, but whatever.
Wow.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us in the chat and for listening to us however you do, be it podcast or YouTube. And we will see you next Sunday as we continue to unearth more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next time.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links if that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.